Welcome to Home Library Book Review Children Series, where we select a book right from the shelf and explain its content through easy to understand text, graphics, example, and animation, along with discussion with family members. Today, we will be reviewing Great Stories for Children by Ruskin Bond.
Hey everyone! This book is a collection of classic children's stories. It has entertaining and imaginative stories. All stories are simple and heartwarming. It has a Goodreads rating of 4.2 out of 5. Since this book has many short stories, we will be covering few in this video, and you can watch out part 2 in our upcoming videos. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Arnav. Let's begin with the first story, A Special Tree. There was a little boy, Rakesh, who lived with his grandfather on the outskirts of Missouri, just where the forest began. Since there were no schools in the village where Rakesh's parents lived, they had sent him to his grandfather in Missouri. One day, Rakesh was on his way home from school when he bought the cherries. Rakesh ate all the cherries and he kept the last seed in his mouth for some time. Are cherry seeds lucky? He asked his grandfather. Of course, he replied. Grandfather told him to plant it. So Rakesh found a small space and began to dig up a flower bed. He pressed the seed into the soil with his thumb and it went right in. 2 seasons went by. One morning in the garden, he bent to pick up what he thought was a small twig and found, to his surprise, that it was well rooted. It was 4 inches tall. He looked at the twig every morning, but it did not seem to be growing very fast. So he stopped looking at it. That year, the monsoon rains came early. After about 2 weeks, the cherry plant was about 2 feet high when a goat entered the garden and ate all the leaves. Only the main stem and 2 thin branches remained. Towards the end of rainy season, new leaves appeared on the tree. By the time summer came round again, it had sent out several new shoots with tender green leaves. That monsoon, Rakesh went home to his village to help his parents. When he came back to grandfather's house at the end of rains, he saw that cherry tree had grown another foot. One day, he found bright green praying mantis on a branch. It was cherry tree's first visitor. The next visitor was a hairy caterpillar who started making a meal of the leaves. Rakesh removed it quickly. He said, "Come back when you're a butterfly." Winter came early. The cherry tree bent low with the weight of snow. Towards February, it was Rakesh's 9th birthday, and the cherry tree was as tall as him. One morning, grandfather gazed at the tree and called Rakesh quickly to see a pale pink blossom at the end of branch. The following year, there were more blossoms, and suddenly the tree was taller than Rakesh. In the cherry tree, the bees came to feed on the nectar. In the blossoms, and tiny birds pecked at the blossoms and broke them off. That summer, there were small cherries on the tree. It's too sour, Rakesh said. They should be better next year. On a warm, sunny afternoon, Rakesh lay down on the grass beneath the tree. He gazed up through the leaves at the great blue sky, and turning on his side, he could see the mountains striding away into the clouds. He said, "What's so special about this tree? Why do we like it so much?" Grandfather replied, "Because we planted it ourselves. That's why it's special. Just one small seed." And he touched the smooth bark of the tree that he had grown. He put his finger at the tip of a leaf and whispered, "Is this what it feels to be God?"
Wow, Mom, such a heartwarming story. I would also plant one seed and see it grow every day.
That's very nice. Let's move on to the next story of this book, The Wind on the Haunted Hill. On the slopes of the next hill was a village. There lived 3 kids, 11 years old, Usha, her younger brother, Suresh, and Usha's friend, Binya, slightly older than her. They sat down, sunbathing and staring across fields at the ruins on the haunted hill. Usha had to go to bazaar, and Suresh wanted to accompany her, but she refused. He said, "Won't you feel scared returning alone? There are ghosts on the haunted hill." She said, "I will return before dark. Ghosts don't appear during the day." Usha tells Suresh and Binya that her grandfather says that over 100 years ago, some Britishers lived on the hill. But the settlement was always being struck by lightning, so they moved away. Binya asked, "But if they left, why is the place visited by ghosts?" Usha replied, "Because grandfather says during a terrible storm, one of the houses was hit by lightning, and everyone in it was killed, even the children, a boy and his sister. Grandfather saw them playing there in the moonlight." Tell us more, Arnav.
Usha set out for bazaar. She bought all her stuff and realized that dark clouds had gathered over the mountains. The wind had dropped, trees were still, sky had darkened, and a deep rumble echoed over the hills. First heavy drop of rain hit her cheek. She started running faster. Night had fallen. There was another flash of lightning. Usha remembered part of an old roof that would give some shelter. Usha placed her hands flat against a stone wall and moved sideways. hoping to reach sheltered corner. Suddenly, her hand touched something soft and she gave a startled cry. Her cry was answered by another half snarl, half screech as something leapt away. Crouched in a corner, she found some shelter. Her clothes were soaked and water streamed down from her hair. She heard a faint cry again, maybe of a cat. Then the storm blotted out all other sounds. There was no time to think of ghosts, but now she was settled in one place. Thunder bloomed and lightning came.
Thank you, Arnav. There was a big flash, a streak of blue sizzle along the floor of the building. Usha was staring straight ahead, and as the opposite wall lit up, she saw, crouching in front of the unused fireplace, two small figures of children. The ghostly figures seemed to look up and stare back at Usha, and then everything was dark again. She had seen, without doubt, two ghosts on the other side of the room. She ran towards a big gap in the wall. She was halfway across when someone fell against her. Usha stumbled, got up, and again bumped into something. She gave a frightened scream. Someone else also screamed. And then there was a shout, a boy's shout, and Usha instantly recognized the voice. Suresh, Usha, Binya. They fell into each other's arms, so surprised and relieved that all they could do was laugh and giggle and repeat each other's name. Then Usha said, "I thought you were ghosts." Suresh also said, "We thought you were ghosts." They huddled together in the corner, chattering with excitement and relief. Suresh and Binya came looking for Usha when it grew dark. The storm continued, but they were not afraid now. After an hour, the rain stopped and they started heading back to their village. When they were some distance away, Usha looked back and said, "Can you see something behind the wall? It's like a hand waving." "Goodbye, goodbye," they heard voices. Who said goodbye? Or was it just the wind?
What an imaginative story, Mom!
Today, we will be reviewing Great Stories for Children by Ruskin Bond.
Hey everyone! This book is a collection of classic children's stories. It has entertaining and imaginative stories. All stories are simple and heartwarming. It has a Goodreads rating of 4.2 out of 5. Since this book has many short stories, we will be covering few in this video. So stay tuned for part 3 in our upcoming videos. And also, don't forget to watch Great Stories Part 1. The link is given in the description below.
Thank you, Arnav. Let's begin. One morning, when a little boy was sitting beside his grandfather on the veranda steps, he noticed the tendril of a creeping vine trailing nearby. he saw the tendril moving slowly towards grandfather. 20 minutes later, it had crossed the step and was touching his feet. There is probably a scientific explanation for the plant's behavior. Something to do with light and warmth, perhaps. But the boy liked to think it moved across the steps simply because it wanted to be near grandfather. Sometimes, when the boy sat by himself beneath the tree, he used to feel lonely. But as soon as his grandfather joined, the garden became a happy place. His grandfather had served many years in the Indian Forest Service, and it was natural that he should know trees and like them. On his retirement, he built a bungalow on the outskirts of Dehradun, planting trees all around. During the rains, he would walk into the jungle beyond the river bed, armed with cuttings and saplings which he would plant in forest. He planted these for the animals and birds who lived there and need more food and shelter.
And of course, men need trees too, the boy said, to keep the desert away, to attract rain for fruit, flowers, leaf, and seed. But men are cutting trees without replacing them. And if we don't plant trees ourselves, a time will come when the world will be one great desert.
Absolutely right, Arnav. Grandfather said, one day the trees will move again. They have been standing still for thousands of years. But there was a time when they could walk about like people. Then along came an interfering busybody who cast a spell over them, rooting them to one place. But they're always trying to move. See how they reach out with their arms. And some of them, like the banyan tree with its traveling aerial roots, manage to get quite far. Whenever grandfather went up to the trees, he noticed that some squirrels were living in them, and a quail, a crow. The trees seemed to know him. They whispered among themselves and looking around. Other small trees, wild plants, and grasses had sprung up under their protection. The trees, planted long ago, had multiplied. They were walking again. In one small corner of the world, grandfather's dream had come true. Let's start with the second story now. On a cold, wintry night, a man had to go to a party at Kapadia's. He put on 2 sweaters, a scarf, and an overcoat and set off down the moonlit road. It was a walk of just over a mile to their house. He had covered about half the distance when he saw a girl standing in the middle of the road. She must be 16 or 17 and looked old-fashioned to him. However, as he went closer, he noticed she had lovely eyes and a winning smile. Are you going to the party? She asked. That's right, the man replied, and said, Come along, we are nearly there. The girl told her name as Julie. Soon they saw lights from Kaparia's house shining brightly. There was quite a crowd at the party, and no one seemed to know Julie. Everyone thought she was with the man. When the music began, she was dancing almost continuously and certainly enjoying herself. It was midnight when the man got up to go. Julie said she would be going home too. There was a cold wind, and he gave her his overcoat. And then they started walking towards Wolfsburn, where she lived. Julie led him towards a shortcut up the hillside. Keep the coat on, the man said. I can collect it tomorrow. She then disappeared up the hill, and the man went home alone. The next day, he walked up to Wolfsburn and opened and entered the iron gate. But of the house itself, little remained. Just a roofless ruin, a pile of stones, a shattered chimney, a few Doric pillars where a veranda had once stood. He thought, had Julie played a joke on him? Or he was at the wrong house? He walked around the hill to the house of the Taylors and asked Mrs. Taylor if she knew a girl called Julie. But she had no clue. However, she mentioned that one of the old families lived there, and when their girl died, they had sold the house and went away. No one ever lived in it again. Their daughter's grave is in the cemetery just down the road. He walked towards the cemetery, and it did not take him long to find Julie's grave. As he was turning to leave, he caught a glimpse of something familiar. Neatly folded on the grass was his overcoat. Something soft and invisible brushed against his cheek, and he knew someone was trying to thank him. Today, we will be doing part 3 of Great Stories for Children by Ruskin Bond. This book is a collection of classic children's stories. This book has entertaining and imaginative stories. All stories are simple and heartwarming. It has a Goodreads rating of 4.2 out of 5.
This book has many short stories, so we will be covering few in this video, and you can watch out part 1 and part 2 videos already uploaded on our channel. Stay tuned for part 4.
Let's begin with the first story, Monkey Trouble. Grandfather had a weakness for keeping unusual pets, so he bought Tutu, a little girl monkey. She shook hands with everyone who visited home. Winters in North India can be cold. cold. A great treat for Tutu on winter evenings was the large bowl of hot water given to her by grandfather for a bath. Once the water became cold, she would get out and run as quickly as she could to the kitchen fire in order to dry herself. One day, Aunt Ruby announced that she had become engaged to Rocky, a school teacher from Goa. On the day of the wedding, Tutu was locked up in the house while all guests made their way to the church. When the service was over, everyone made their way back to the house for reception. Tutu was on her best behavior. She greeted the guests with squeals of delight. Aunt Ruby was not happy to see Tutu, and she flew at Tutu in a rage. Tutu, sensing that she was not welcome, leapt away, taking with her the top tier of the wedding cake. She climbed to the top of the tree and proceeded to pelt guests with bits of wedding cake. When the festivities were finally over, Uncle Benji took the car to drop Aunt Ruby and Rocky to the nearby hill resort. The car shot forward in a cloud of dust. Rocky and Aunt Ruby continued to wave to us, unknowing to the fact that Tutu is on the perch of the rear bumper. Let's start with the second story, the tunnel. It was almost noon and the jungle was very still and silent. Suraj stood waiting for midday train. It wasn't the station. He was waiting so that he could watch the steam engine come roaring out of the tunnel. He had heard in the distance the shrill whistle of the engine. A second or two later, the steam engine shot out of the tunnel. Instinctively, Suraj stepped back a few paces, and then the train had gone, leaving only a plume of smoke. Suraj began walking along the embankment towards the tunnel. The tunnel grew darker as he walked further into it. When he had gone 20 yards, it became pitch dark. The tunnel was still full of smoke. Suraj had simply wanted to walk through. The walls were damp and sticky. A bat flew past. A lizard scuttled between the lines. About 50 feet from the entrance to the tunnel stood the watchman's hut. It was the watchman's duty to inspect the tunnel and keep it clear of obstacles. He was just settling down for an afternoon nap when he saw the boy emerge from the tunnel. "Welcome," the watchman said, and Suraj sat on the edge of the cot. "My name is Sundar Singh, and you can come here and sit with me if you like. There is one train during the day and another one during the night. And now I'm about to take a nap." And Suraj stood up and began walking back up to the village. The following evening, Sundar Singh was waiting for Suraj, and when he arrived, he made tea. As the brief twilight faded, Sundar Singh lit his oil lamp and went to inspect the tunnel. On his return to the hut, they both sat on the cot. A new sound reached both of them quite distinctly. as if someone was cutting through the branch of a tree. It's the leopard, I think. It's in the tunnel. And if we don't drive the leopard out of the tunnel, it will be run over and killed. And this cannot happen. But won't it attack us if we try to drive it out? Asked Suraj. Not this leopard. It knows me well. We have seen each other many times. It has weakness for goats and stray dogs. But it won't harm us, said the. Raising his lamp, Sundar Singh advanced into the tunnel, sharp of his voice to try and scare away the animal. They had gone just 20 paces into the tunnel when the light from the lamp fell upon the leopard. It was crouching between the tracks. Suraj and Sundar both shouted together. Their voices rang through the tunnel, and the leopard, uncertain as to how many terrifying humans were there in the tunnel with him, turned swiftly and disappeared into darkness. To make sure it had gone, they both walked the length of the tunnel. When they returned to the entrance, the rails were beginning to hum. They knew the train was coming. And then the engine came round the bend, hissing at them, thundering past Suraj like the beautiful dragon of his dreams. And they trembled to the passing of the same train, almost after a week later, when Suraj and his father were both travelling in it. Suraj heard the rumble as the train passed over a small bridge, and he knew they must be approaching the tunnel. He could not see Sundar Singh, but he saw the lamp and knew his friend was out there. The train went into the tunnel and out again, and Suraj stared out at the darkness, thinking of the watchman with the lamp, who always remained a firefly for those traveling thousands as he lit up the darkness for steam engines and leopards.
Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe. Also press on the bell notification button for more videos like these. Until next time, take care and bye.